Welcome to Tuesdays with Jakey. It is Tuesday, February 2nd, and it is also the 33rd day of 2021. How time flies, right? Jesus Christ, we're just like literally 5 weeks away from this whole thing being a year old. It's also Groundhog Day. 6 more weeks of winter. Like, who the fuck even knows what season it is anymore? I guess my friends on the East Coast do because they just got pounded by 17 inches of snow. That I would watch a porno named that. It feels like it would be just a cocaine fueled orgy, which would be fun to watch. May no, probably not, because there'd be a bunch of, unless there was a lot of uh what do they call that? Viagra, right? Because otherwise, guys can have coke dick. Who wants to watch that? Nobody. Anyways, this is not an all ages podcast, so if you're listening in the car with your kids, earmuffs. I started eating again on Friday. I made it 18 full days, and I went skiing on Friday for the second time while on the cleanse. And first time was like pretty exhausting, but it was like it hadn't really snowed much. So skiing on groomed trails is as easy as skiing gets, and we got like a 16 inches of fresh powder last week. And I tried to go skiing the first day that it was all dumping and forgot my ski poles. And I probably could have rented some once I got to the ski mountain. I drove through a fucking massive blizzard. They hadn't even shoveled the roads yet. And I was driving there. By the time I got there, I got suited up and booted up and put my ski boots on, which is a huge pain in the ass. It's like hard to get your feet in and then buckle them. Or maybe my boots aren't big enough. I don't know. Or maybe I just don't do it enough. But yeah, I got all suited and booted up and then realized I forgot my poles. And I was like, Jesus Christ, I drove all the way here in a fucking blizzard. And I thought, like, oh, I could go rent some. But I was like, then I would have to go inside the ski lodge. And God knows what that was going to be all about. And I also realized, like, it's probably just a sign from the universe being like, you probably shouldn't ski today. So I went home, and I did learn that the all-wheel drive capability on my car fucking works, and I got back up the mountain hill. Getting down was no problem. It never really is. But getting back up was the difficult part, or so I thought, but I made it up, no problem. I've seen fucking big four-wheel drive trucks stuck there, too. And I've heard four-wheel drive trucks don't work as well in the snow because there's no weight in the back. So a lot of people, like, fill the back with sand. And lots of other people just put their fucking fat kids back there. Or they stuff dead deer in the back and just leave the carcass to freeze over the winter. I'm not sure if they actually do that, but I would. Beats having to buy an outboard freezer for all your hunting meat. And I still haven't gone hunting up here. I will. I'm committed to going hunting at some point if I'm going to live up here. And I'll explain that all once I actually go and do it. So yeah, I quit the cleanse. I went skiing on the next day, and there's so much fucking powder, and they hadn't groomed any of the trails, and it was easy to find like unskied areas too. And I've seen powder on TV and stuff, and like Warren Miller ski videos, and it looks like you just float right through it. Turns out it's a lot of hard work. Even though it's fluffy powder, when there's so much of it, it's a lot of hard work. So I skied for like 3 hours, and just fucking, it's rugged, man, just pushing through all that snow. And I've literally just depleted my body of all the energy it had left, I guess. I came home that night, and I was great while I was skiing, but I came home and I just sort of collapsed into my little beanbag chair and put on a movie. I'd highly recommend, if you're in the East Coast in a blizzard, or anywhere, East Coast is what's getting it right now. But I'm a big fan of matching a movie to my surroundings. The first time I really realized that was a thing you could do was I went to see that stupid M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong movie called The Village or something, and I saw it at a drive-in theater. And it was all set in the woods, and the drive-in theater was kind of set in the woods, and it was like foliage time. I went in like September, October. Warwick Drive-In, highly recommended for this summer. Up in Warwick, New York, right on the border of Jersey, off 17, just up past the Renaissance Fair, literally. There's good apple picking up there, too, and a bowling alley if you want to make a whole day of it. But the screen felt like it extended as far as you could see because of all the trees and the woods around. And I was like, that's fucking amazing. And done it a few other times. I watched Apocalypse Now one day on my laptop, sat right outside a river full of hippopotamuses in the, what do they call that? The Okavango Delta in Botswana. Yeah. And so I watched The Hateful Eight the other night, Thursday, and was just collapsed, and I had like no fucking energy. I could barely get up, but I was like, that's okay. I'll feel better tomorrow. So I woke up Friday. Hateful Eight, great movie, by the way. Great movie. The monologue Samuel Jackson gives about his dingus, one of the best ever in film. And watching a movie set in a snowstorm while you're in a snowstorm, what could be better? A fireplace, obviously very smart. And be careful of the coffee. I'll just say that. So yeah, I was totally wiped out, and then I woke up Friday morning and I was still wiped out. So I made my little lemonade and maple syrup and cayenne pepper concoction. I put a bunch of extra maple syrup, figuring my body needed some nutrients to heal what I had done to it out there on the ski slopes, and it just didn't work. And I made it till about 4 p.m. that day, and I barely got off the beanbag. It was a struggle to find the energy to even get to the bathroom to pee and fill up my glass of water. I was just drinking tons of water, and this certainly isn't a symptom of the cleanse. Last time I did it, I went for 21 days, and the only reason I broke that one is because I really decided I wanted to have a cheesesteak or roast pork Italian with broccoli rabe from Tony Luke's in South Philadelphia. But I was planning on going 30 days that time. This time I was planning on going 21, and I'm sure that if I didn't go skiing and exert all that energy, I would have made it. But around 3 o'clock on Friday, my 19th day without food, almost 19th and a half, because the first day I was supposed to start the cleanse was on the Sunday, January 10th, and I was watching football, and I got hungry late in the afternoon that day after almost having made it a day. But around 3 p.m. on that 19th day, I just started hallucinating about food. I was tasting food in my mouth, literally tasting it, and I could feel the texture in my mouth, and I was picturing it. Even with my eyes open, I was seeing cheeseburgers in front of me and shit, and I was like, yo, this must be my body telling me that I have to eat. This is the warning sign where I've said before that I'll stop the cleanse when I feel like I really need to, but until then I'm just going to keep going. And obviously, if you're fucking hallucinating about food, then that's your body telling you something. So I decided to listen to my body, which I don't often do. And I ate, but I didn't have any real food here. I had things to eat, but I didn't have whole food. I didn't have any fruits or vegetables or greens or anything like that because I wasn't planning on eating, so I wasn't keeping food around. So I just had to raid my little pantry, my little doomsday prepper shelf, right, stocked up at Trader Joe's a couple weeks before the election. I spent $317 at a Trader Joe's in Boise, Idaho. Do you know how hard that is? My cart was literally overflowing, and I did that without buying any meat or any booze or any beverages, which are easy, quick ways to rack up your totals. So I've got so many fucking chickpeas and black beans, and I have these cans of dolmas. Trader Joe's canned dolmas, they're so good. And you don't even need a can opener. They're peeled open cans, yet it's stuffed, grape leaves stuffed with rice. So I opened one of those, fucking scarfed it down at the whole thing. Then I cooked up some spaghetti with butter, which is not how you're supposed to break a fast, by the way. For that long, the Master Cleanse suggests that you break it with some miso soup, some orange juice. But I figure if I broke my 21-day fast with Tony Luke's, I'd be fine. And I didn't even get a bellyache. But I had spaghetti with butter, and then I ripped open another can from Trader Joe's that was his eggplant packed in tomato and onion sauce. And then I had a couple of pieces of turkey jerky. Thank you, Mariette, for the awesome care package, and some coconut milk caramel candies, which were great. But I had 3 of them, and oh my God, what a fucking sugar high that was after having no refined sugar. And I talked last week about like wanting to, when I did finally break the fast, about trying to exhibit self control, and I've managed that pretty well. I did go the next morning, Saturday morning. I went to the cool little coffee shop in town. There was one cool hip coffee shop in a converted like old service station, which I can't wait to hang out at in the summertime when there's all the outdoor seating is open. Maybe meet some people up here because it's hard to meet people during a pandemic when everyone's wearing masks and people are afraid of strangers. But I went in there and I got some food, and it's they got a lot of fans and it's spaced out, so I'm not too freaked out about sitting in there for a little while. And I had huevos rancheros on a cornbread waffle. And then it turned out that was the only thing I ate that day. I went to the grocery store and bought fucking tons of mixed grains and vegetables, and I was like, that's all I'm going to eat for the next few days. And I didn't even eat again on Saturday. So I was just like, I'm just going to listen to my body. I'm going to keep listening to my body. I'm not going to eat because I think it's time to eat. I'm only going to eat if I get really hungry. And came home, drank the rest of my lemonade mixture from the night before and the maple syrup and just lots of water. And then Sunday I had a couple salads. Yesterday, Monday, I had a couple salads. I'm going to have salad today and just try to green the fuck out of myself. I'm going to put some tuna in the salad today too, some tuna fish, because I realized other than those 2 eggs, I haven't had any like just full-on protein in literally 21 days, 3 weeks. Yeah, I guess there's probably not much protein in a canned eggplant or grape leaves. So I would, in conclusion with the Master Cleanse, I would highly recommend it to anybody looking for like a little sort of just hard reset to your body. If you get through the first 2 or 3 days, you'll be fine after that, I think. I think it all has to do with mental state too. But I was struggling on Friday with like not giving up and like because I had told myself to go 21 days. And that's part of that like obsession, addictive personality that I was talking about last week. That's just like, fucking Christ. Like for some reason, I wanted to go 21. I really wanted to go 22 days to break my last record. And then on day 19, I'm like struggling with the concept of eating. And I had to remind myself that like I didn't fail at all. In fact, I was more successful than probably most anybody who's ever tried this cleanse before. And also, like, what the fuck? Who am I trying to prove this shit to? Like, myself? And what do I have to prove? That I can not eat for 22 days if I can not eat for fucking 18 days? That's just so stupid. And it's weird how your brain gets wired into that bullshit. And I guess that leads to next thing I wanted to talk about. I started making notes during the week about thoughts so I could have things to talk about. And it's not just all old stories about motorcycles. But I'll get back to more of those eventually. I have this whole plan. Like, I have a sort of... Eventually, I'm going to do an episode that's just about all my motorcycle crashes. And I can just kind of keep that in my back pocket in case I come up with something a week where I have nothing to talk about. But I don't know that's going to happen. Because I always have things to talk about, especially when I'm not out and about talking to anybody. It's weird how that works. You'd think I'd have nothing to talk about because I'm just sitting up here on a mountain. But, my brain doesn't stop working, obviously. And I was thinking about, like, you ever try to do something good for yourself and then you do it for a while and then it gets undone because whatever, the resistance creeps in and you eat healthy for a while and then you eat junk food for 2 days. And I just always feel like I feel like life is a constant struggle to do better. And no matter how well I do, I can slip and slide off of that. And then it feels like I'm starting from the beginning again, whether it's with my diet, like drinking, tobacco over the years, just whatever it is. I just feel like I can never get a leg up. It's like just living a balanced life is a Sisyphean task. It's the pushing the ball up the hill only for it to roll back down on you. It's just, why is it such a constant struggle to find any sort of balance? What is that? Is that something that's like, is it modern life that does that? Were people feeling like this in fucking 5000 BC? Is it part of being human, that struggle? Or is it something that's been prompted by advertising and being told you should be leading a better life on a regular basis, and also being, obviously the addiction of processed foods? Like, you kind of don't stand a chance against them. There's an excellent book called Salt, Sugar, Fat that details the history of the modern food industry and how there's all these scientists on the other side of your mouth, basically, or on the other side of the supermarket that have fucking exactly calculated the amount of salt, sugar, and fat to put in all the processed food to make you want more. That's why when you open a bag of chips, you're not a loser for eating the whole bag of chips. You're fucking being tricked. And it's like the social networks, your physiology is being tricked. Your brain sensors are being tricked by the amount of salt, sugar, and fat that goes in all this food. And it's like everyone was talking about the social dilemma in the fall and about how all these behavioral scientists are manipulating social media to make you keep clicking and refreshing. That's why it's hard to get off of. It's not that you don't have any self-control. It's that there's thousands. Every time you look at your screen, there's thousands of eyeballs looking back at you, observing your every move, and then calculating a way to keep you on that fucking app, just like they calculate a way to keep you eating these fucking Oreos. Oh, man. So I guess I feel like I'm going to be fine eating good food until I slip and eat shit food, and then it's like slippery slope. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, eventually I think like the end game of life is just to lead some sort of balanced life. And I don't know that I'll ever get there. But I guess trying is fun. It's not even fun though. It's actually depressing. It beats me down. So I don't know. We'll see if we can get over it. I still don't even know if I know how to live life. Like sometimes I just wake up. I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with myself today? Like, I don't know. What do regular people do? I guess that's why people get married, right? Stay in long-term relationships because you have a partner or someone to lean on a daily basis when you're not feeling well. But oftentimes that seems to make people feel worse. So, yeah, how do you live? I don't know. And you can't always search for excitement because then that leads to inevitable crashes, which then can find you in the nut house. Speaking of the nut house, I have been really hankering to go to an NA meeting lately. And probably not for the reasons you'd imagine. I went to a lot of meetings when I was in treatment in Florida. That was part of the recovery. We would go to multiple AA and NA meetings every week, and sex and love addiction meetings, and like those can be very helpful whether or not you have a substance abuse problem. And not everybody, maybe only about half of the people in this treatment center were there for substance abuse. It was mental health, psychiatric treatment. Psychiatric, not everyone was on meds either. I wasn't, thankfully. I think. Maybe I could use them, but I took a lot of pride in overcoming my mental illnesses, I guess, without medication. But they sent us to these meetings, and I think just part of recovery from anything, any sort of trauma, it's helpful to hear that other people have gone through similar situations and sort of managed to get over them. I did not love AA meetings, especially not down in Ocala, Florida, but I fucking love the NA meetings because I really identified with the guys in the NA meetings who were just real hard Scrabble type folks. And I really don't want to generalize. But I found that, I'm going to generalize anyway. Well, I'm just going to talk about the meetings that I went to. I found that when I got home from treatment, all the therapists were really pushing. They pushed everybody who left treatment. Go to 90 meetings in 90 days, and it'll ground you, help you keep grounded, help you stay in touch with the treatment you received here and all the counseling. And I went to 3-4 weeks of a meeting every day. I went to an AA meeting in New York City, and I tried all these different ones, and I gotta tell you, the best meeting I went to was the one on Christmas Day on Houston Street. They call that the midnight meeting, and I loved it because it was 4 people in the room. There was this one person speaking about their whole experience, and then there was me, 2 homeless guys just passed out looking to stay warm, and another old crusty alcoholic dude. And I really like the crusty people. Yeah, I don't like I found at AA meetings there was a lot of like a victim stancing, posturing, I don't know, but like people felt the whole idea of having no control and having to cede control to a higher power, whatever it was, just be like, oh, I have a disease. I couldn't get with that. I've never been able to get with that. Over the years, I've been to other AA meetings with friends, a couple of my own. I have a multitude of struggles, but I never really identified with the not having control over it. I certainly identify with not having control over continuing to drink after I've had my first drink. Absolutely. Like, I just, you fucking, put some, tune me up, let me loose. I'm like a wind-up toy. Like, I won't stop going until I run out of booze or pass out. And that's tricky. And I know I could probably have a glass of wine tomorrow, no problem. Then have 2 glasses the day after, and then 3 the day after that. And maybe I, go a couple of weeks and then whatever, forget it. Then it's like, then it's just off to the races. But I found at the NA meetings, anyway, that like the people were just like, yeah, I was addicted to fucking heroin. And then I was like, fuck it, I'm not going to do this anymore. And that's sort of generalizing too, because the only NA meetings I've ever been to were the ones down in Florida. But that specific group, I didn't find much victimhood. I just found like, yeah, I was a junkie, and then I decided not to be a junkie anymore, and now I'm not a fucking junkie. And I'm happy to be here to be able to tell you that. And I was like, I could identify with that. And they give you these little chips in AA meetings for 30 days and 60 days, chips, coins. Yeah, I think they call them chips. I got those. I literally don't know where they are, but I had these NA tags. They're keychains, and I got 2 of those, too, for 30 and 60 days at the NA meetings I was going to. And I just really liked the keychains for some reason, and I lost them when I lost that bag on my motorcycle trip over the summer. My keychains were attached to that, and I missed them. So I really wanted to go to an NA meeting just to get another keychain saying that I've been clean of drugs for 1 year. And really, those things, those keychains just reminded me of how far I've come since my struggles and since my inpatient treatment at the loony bin. And I say that with the utmost affection. Like, it was such a fucking wonderful place to be, and to be able to like finally admit all these things out loud in front of people that I had never admitted before, and just be mostly a judgment-free zone and have like just counseling all day. I mean, a lot of people hate that shit, but I was like, I would have rather been doing that than being on vacation somewhere playing golf. But I really wanted this keychain, so I had looked up NA meetings in the area, and for whatever reason, in McCall, Idaho here, there's lots of AA meetings, but there didn't seem to be any NA meetings, so I had to drive 25 miles south to the next town down called Cascade, and thought about going last week, didn't make it, kind of like missed my timing. I forgot what time the meeting was, and so yesterday I was like, I'm gonna fucking go, so I drove all the way down there for the 5 p.m. meeting at the Cascade Community Church, and they showed up, and the whole thing was fucking padlocked and dark. And so fuck the Narcotics Anonymous app that tells you where meetings are. And I drove all the way there. It was pointless, except there's a dollar store down there. So I went in the dollar store. I was like, I'm going to stock up on fucking toilet paper and Tide Pods. And how many fucking kids eat Tide Pods that make them so hard to get into the packaging for? Life hack, though, just cut the fucking top off and put them in a Ziploc bag, and easier to access. But I went into the dollar store, and I was like, oh my God, like they say it only takes 2 to have a meeting, right? 2 addicts or whatever, you could have a meeting. And I went in there, and there were a couple of just straight junky looking motherfuckers. There was this dirty, smelly dude in like a mechanic's jumpsuit and his midget wife, and I was just crying when I saw them in the aisle. And I was like, there really needs to be an Instagram account called People of Dollar Stores in Rural Areas That Don't Have Walmarts. I might have to start that one. But also, it can be very dangerous to surreptitiously take these type of people's photos. I guess maybe that's my new living on the edge, is trying to sneak these photos and then just run out of there like my ass is on fire and my feet were catching, or the other way around, if I get busted. But it's probably not that hard to outrun a junkie, even most recovering or recovered junkies. I bet they don't run that fast. It sounds like a Chappelle show skit. It's like the recovering junkie Olympics. I guess like the crackhead Olympics. Sure. So I woke up this morning and I found out I was like, I Googled NA meetings. I don't know why I didn't do that in the first place. I think because when I was going to those AA meetings last year, I just used the AA meeting finder app, and it was awesome. It described every meeting, so I thought naturally the NA meeting app would be great too. But I went to Google, and it seems like there are 2 weekly NA meetings right here in McCall. So I guess yesterday was just just went for a nice drive, and it was lovely. It's beautiful to drive around here and just see the landscape change a bit. And yeah, so I might go tonight. I'll let you know how that goes. We'll see if it actually exists as well. There's no meetings don't have phone numbers or even websites for the most part. So I'm gonna just drive into town 8 p.m. tonight and see what happens. Hopefully I get that keychain and everything will work. I watched a bunch of movies this week and weekend. I watched a Lil Peep documentary. You know that rapper Lil Peep? He died a couple of years ago, drug overdose, which is apparently the second leading cause of rapper deaths nowadays, behind shooting. And I watched the documentary. It was pretty good. I never heard his music. I kind of only knew who he was tangentially, and then when he died, someone put a big mural up on East 3rd Street between 2nd Avenue and the Bowery that I walk by quite often. And but I know who all these rappers are for the most part. I see their names, but I don't listen to a lot of their music. And I had literally never listened to any Lil Peep, but I'm like, I'm going to put this on, and it was called Everybody's Everything or Everyone's Everything, and it was a very apt title because he felt the pressure to be the guy amongst his crew that would elevate everybody else and needed to party harder than everybody else and needed to just kind of lead by example, but not a positive example. But I think what they thought was positive to start. And it was really depressing and sad to see someone with so much talent and vibrancy just surrounded by so many fucking losers. And that's the only way to put it. They was just surrounded by losers. Even if it's a lot of his rapper buddies, they're interviewing them now, a few years after his death or whatever, or whenever they made the movie. And he had obviously been dead for a while, when they're doing these interviews and they're talking about it. And half of these dudes you could tell were high as fuck on pills while they're being interviewed. And they didn't really you could tell they didn't even have much compassion. They were just bummed that their sort of meal ticket fucking disappeared. And the guy was on his last tour and he had said, I'm going to leave all this shit behind, but I'm going to take my homies. He was moving to London to sort of get away from that whole scene and get into the fashion scene, and seemed like he had endless potential. Then he took these guys on one last tour, one last big tour to give them some shine before he sort of disappeared on them. And it was on that tour that he died in his tour bus, and he was sat up on the couch in the tour bus for 4 or 5 hours before anyone even checked on him. So obviously he was just fucking gone. They weren't gonna fix him with CPR and God knows whatever he was on, Xanax and oxys and whatever. I just felt so sad for him and for a whole generation of kids that are growing up addicted to these pills. Obviously pills existed when I was a kid, but I don't know why I never really got into them. And nowadays, though, it seems like everywhere you turn, you can pick up Xanax and I guess, yeah, Xanax, Oxy, Adderall. I mean, oh, God, I'm getting wistful just thinking about it. Pills were never my thing until they were, just for a hot minute. But not even a hot minute, in and out. I never really felt like I had to use them, but I had fun with them for a while. And maybe that's a story for another time. Maybe I'll tell it tonight at my NA meeting. But I did get totally strung out once on Xanax, but I'm going to save that story. And, dude, I got to tell you, coming off of it, it only took a week, 10 days. Actually, twice it happened. First time I didn't really realize that happened. I thought I had the flu when I was going through withdrawal. And the second time it happened, I was like, it wasn't even until it was done, but hallucinations and fucking chills and shivers. It was fucking brutal. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but it happened so fast, too. But it really, that was making me think about my own personal relationships. And I've I've led a lonely existence, which sounds weird because I seem to be outgoing and so many friends and everything. But oftentimes I'm alone and like going out and hanging out. I would choose to do that with like just whoever was around and whoever was available to hang out. And I sort of, for a long time, I didn't really manage the quality of my friendships the way I should have. I've always had tons of quality friends, but the older you get, the more you lose your friends to, marriage and parenthood, right? And relationships. And it's fine. Like, I'm not going to fault anybody for that, but the older I've gotten, the more that's left me alone and just sort of hanging out with whoever. And once I moved to London and started coming back to New York for short trips, then I started to be like, all right, like, who do I want to hang out with? I've got 72 hours to be in New York. And I started picking and choosing my friends and my hangs a lot more carefully, and really realized that, like, the quality of the people you hang out with is way more important than the quantity of hanging that you do. And so I've learned that I would much rather be alone than hang out with somebody who doesn't really feed my soul and my energy. And that's not to diss anybody I've hung out with. Like, most of the people I've hung out with, for the most part, other than drug buddies, were good people. But sometimes you just don't click, and that's fine. And it's like, if I don't click with you, I don't want to hang out. Like, nothing wrong with that. But the watching that little Peep documentary really reinforced that for me. And now I don't hang out with anybody, and it's kind of cool. I have phone calls with a lot of people, some once a week, some multiple times a week. Shout out Charlie Ryan, my best phone buddy of the pandemic and even before. But it's like, it's such an old adage too, and it's one of those things that, like, it's so obvious, and it's about how to live life, right, and how to live a fuller, more balanced, well-balanced life. It's like, choose your friends wisely. There's no fucking secrets out there. It's just so hard to implement all of them and get them all right at the same time, and just live a balanced life. It's so fucking frustrating sometimes. And then, like, even now, like, some days I feel great, other days I don't. And it's just so much up and down, like a fucking elevator operator. Also, another little thought I had about movies this week was, like, I realized that fucking mafia movies are like Mexican food, in that there's only 6 ingredients, and they just keep combining them in different ways to make new shit, right? It's like Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Al Pacino. Like, it's the same people over and over. It's like watching Goodfellas the other day, and you see Lorraine Bracco, and you're like, she's the shrink on The Sopranos. And then there's so many dudes in all these movies that end up in The Sopranos too, and it's just like, just fucking plug and play over and over. And it's like, you got to put Frank Vincent in there too, who was, like, I guess the go-to De Niro Pacino guy when you have a lower budget, or those guys aren't available, right? He's always like the fill-in dude. He's great, great in Get Shorty too, and also, what's that? Snatch? Was it Snatch or the other one that he was in? But yeah, Frank Vincent's great, but also, like, he's not great. He's kind of like always too according to type. And, like, what the fuck was up with Al Pacino? That guy played Donnie Brasco, or played Lefty Lucchese, right? The just old schmuck mobster who can't get anything right and ends up bringing an FBI informant into the mix unknowingly. Like, but he's also the fucking Godfather, the king, right? Like, the king of all mafia dons also plays the biggest schmuck in the history of the mafia. That's so weird. And of course, dude fucking played Scarface too. So the dude, hey, I'm Italian, I'm Cuban, whatever. And that other film I can't think of the name of, where he's him and Sean Penn, and he's another coke dealer. It's like, Jesus. I mean, there is no limit to the amount of times I would watch Al Pacino play any type of gangster, mafioso, drug lord, any of it. I'm here for Al Pacino. He's like the fucking refried beans of the Mexican food of gangster films, like or the cheese. You can't have any dish without that. Like you can substitute some here and there, but yeah, Pacino's definitely like he's it. And that's all the notes I made for today. So maybe we get to some more motorcycle riding. Fucking Murder Mountain. I was teased mercilessly by some of you for last week's episode where I thought I was retelling the same story over and over. But it's like, you tell the story a couple of times and, you're living out here in the middle of nowhere. And sometimes like I told a story on the phone to a couple friends about what happened up there on Murder Mountain. And then I'm telling it last week in the podcast. And I'm like, I feel like I've said all this before. And I had said it all before. I just said it on a telephone and not a microphone. And I was confused. And stop fucking with me, okay? Like, you never forget things. You try to talk for an hour a week and just recall anecdotes and try to not repeat yourself. Let's say you do it, buddy, all right? Leave me the fuck alone. But I also got a ton of good messages, which I really appreciate and which really keeps me going. So if you're listening to this podcast and it's helping you keep going every Tuesday or whenever, I'd love to hear about it from you. DM, slide into my DMs, hit me on the hip, as the kids used to say back when you would wear your phone on your belt for some reason. Hit me on the hip, 917-443-7615. Do anything but Zoom me, please. And don't FaceTime me. It's like, what? It's so weird. It's so weird. Unless you want to show me yourself naked and you're a chick, and in which case, just, FaceTime away. Speaking of chicks, I met another chick up here after my failed attempt at connection in the fall, I guess is the best way to put it. Met another girl, and it's interesting. She's 31. She's got 2 kids, which has always been a non-starter for me. Never been interested in a chick with kids. Because I've never been interested in having kids, and I think if you're going to be in a relationship with somebody, you want to have the same sort of priorities for life. And also, I'll freely admit, a lot of that has to do with selfishness, right? Like I want to be the number one priority of my partner if I'm in a romantic relationship, or at least number one personal priority outside of maybe family. But even so, like if you're living with someone or connected with them every day, like you should be more important than their parents, at least on a day-to-day basis, because that's what you're doing. You're melding your lives together. They're becoming your partner. And my selfishness has always been like, why would I want to be with someone with kids or got someone else to deal with and pay attention to all the time, especially someone like me who's free-spirited and ready to be on the go anytime. And it's like, hey, let's go out Thursday. I don't want to hear that I got to find a babysitter or whatever. But then started thinking about it, and I was like, it's fucking perfect, especially nowadays, because if you date someone with kids, then it still gives you a lot of freedom, because especially like shared custody, they can only hang out with you 50% of the time. So like you don't have to worry about whether you're letting them down, like, because I really enjoy my solitude right now. And I kind of dig being alone and not having responsibilities to anybody else, but I also want a bone. So I feel like now someone with kids is the best option. So I'll keep you posted on how that goes. We're just chatting at this point. It hasn't even been any talk of boning, but I'm pretty sure it's headed that direction, and we'll see. But fucked up thing is, like, I've learned not to ask anybody about their politics, especially in a town like this. And I think that's become a really important thing to realize, and also to realize that like it's hard to blame people for liking Donald Trump, right? Or becoming Republicans, and like that, just because that's how I feel personally. And I would hope that Republicans would be like, it's hard to blame somebody for liking Joe Biden. Like, does anyone really like Joe Biden? Or they're like just relieved that it's not Donald Trump? I'm very curious about that. Like, I remember when Joe Biden first announced his candidacy, I was talking to some friends and I was like, I mean, that's just laughable. There's no way it's going to be that fucking oaf. And now it is. And it's like, at least Donald Trump being removed from office finally has made me kind of like stop paying attention to politics and stuff. And I've muted like every politician's name that would roll off my tongue right now. I've muted on Twitter, which has also been the best thing I've ever done. But living in a place like this in Idaho, I've started to call it Militia Mountain. And there's not militias on this mountain as far as I know of, but it sort of describes the state. Did you know Idaho is sort of the birthplace of modern day militias? That Ruby Ridge raid that the FBI conducted on the militia compound, that was in Idaho. I never knew that. For some reason, I always thought it was in Texas. There's another town up here called Sandy Point that is just like, I think it's like the racist New York City or something. Back around the time of the O.J. Simpson case, a lot of LAPD old timers retired, and for whatever reason, they all it's like everybody found on Reddit that they're gonna short or buy GameStop stock. Like these people had some message board back then, these LAPD folks, and they created a whole community of fucking racists up in Sandy Point. And I've yet to be there. It's like 45 minutes north of Coeur d'Alene, and maybe I'll probably get there next spring or summer when I'm back on my motorcycle just to see. But yeah, maybe I'll wear my "Thank You for Not Being Racist" shirt or my Black Lives Matter tie-dye. But yeah, the whole area is kind of militia-y, and it's super Republican out here. That's it. You don't see anybody. You didn't see any Biden signs in the fall, and you saw a fair bit of Trump. Not a ton in this town, but more so out of town. But that's not to say there's Trump pickup trucks that wave their Trump flags, and there's one that just fucking, man, this fucking asshole has a Trump flag on one side of his pickup truck and a Confederate flag on the other. And one of these days, I'm going to set his truck on fire. They're very likely, no, I'm not. I'm going to say, no, I'm not. But if I were drinking, I'd say it was, I'd 4-to-1 odds that I actually set that truck on fire one day. But now that I don't take any drugs or really go anywhere, there's a little chance I'm going to run into it parked. But so I'm getting a little sidetracked with setting trucks on fire. But just trying to meet people. You obviously if you're going to eliminate Trump supporters, I learned that swiping around on Bumble and Tinder, it's pretty interesting. Why would you wear a fucking MAGA hat in your Bumble picture? And what's it matter? You don't want to date a guy who's a Democrat. Then you're cutting your pool down by half. But it's confounding to me why some people would think some way politically and other ways politically. But then the more I think about it, the more I'm just you just got to remember, we're all fucking human beings, and we all want the same thing, right? We want safety, we want shelter, we want food, we want liberty, freedom of thought, mostly freedom of expression, and free from judgments. And the best way to be free from judgments is to stop judging other people. And I thought to myself, nobody just woke up one day and switched sides to being a Trump supporter. Everyone who likes Trump, for the most part, those people, it happens slowly over the years, and they've been let down by the political system. And they're not all just racists. That's what it's so easy to think that if you like Donald Trump, you got to be a racist piece of shit. And it's no, you just got to be, you got to have been so fucking beaten down by the whole political system and realizing that no one's really on your side. And suddenly this outlier shows up and says, hey, I'm going to make things great again. And when has America been great? It's been a while, right? But the idea of making it great again was enough to sway a lot of people. And how are you going to fault someone for that, right? How are you going to fault someone for, the addiction of social media and the rabbit hole that it drives you down, and talking about the social dilemma and talking about the addictive aspects of that. And it's you click a couple fucking things on Facebook, and the next thing you're down the rabbit hole. And if that shit does influence your brain, and I don't think that's necessarily people's faults. And I think if you just focus on what you have in common, this chick I met, she likes riding motorcycles. Great. I don't want to know if she likes Donald Trump or not. But I do know that she was in the Air Force and was a drone operator. And I asked her if her drones fired missiles, the one she piloted. And she was like, yeah. And then I asked her if she ever blew up a school. And she's like, that's not funny. And I was like, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just curious. And she's like, that's not what we do with drones. And it's that's not what I read. And then I just let it go with a little chuckle, because I'm I don't think you join the Air Force with the idea of fucking blowing people up with remote controlled drones from the other side of the world, but like it's slight indoctrination. Like you click one YouTube link that tells you that the government is fucked or that they're, it eventually leads to thinking they're eating babies in the basement of a pizzeria, right? Which sounds crazy to go from regular life to believing all that QAnon shit, but like it's all incrementalism, just like how the Democrats govern. But it's like you spend enough time in the military, and that they're gonna we're gonna fight for freedom. It's like that we don't really fight for freedom. There's no real threat to our freedom. The only reason there's ever been threat to our freedom is because we've invaded other countries. That's pretty. I think. I don't know. I'm not a historian, but I think, you just get slowly programmed, whether it's by social media, whether it's by your friends, whether it's by traditional legacy media, whether it's by being in the military and having drill sergeants and commanding officers telling you what to do. And how am I going to fault someone for that? Like, I've fucking been brainwashed into the socialist borderline commie that I am, right? As a pinko fucking liberal. And, can't we all just get along? That's what I'm saying. To go back to Rodney King, can't we all just get along? It's like I just want to hang out with people. I want to go hunting. I've been actively seeking a hunting partner, or not even partner, but a hunting mentor, someone to take me hunting, because I want to know what hunting's all about. Like, I want to experience it. I'm not sure that I want to shoot an animal. I don't have a hunting license. Not even sure that I can. And I don't know if some guy's going to give me a gun if he takes me out into the woods to hunt. He might have other ulterior motives for taking me out there, and a gun might spoil those plans for him. We'll see. But I want to go out and I want to see what it's all about, because I want to put myself in other people's shoes. I've always enjoyed different experiences like that and trying to see things from all sides and all angles. So that's what I'm going to do. And that's certainly what I'm going to do when it comes time to meeting people here, which I'm hoping I get to do more of. And it looks like I'm going to be here for a while. Anybody think the pandemic's about to end? Anyone think we're going to have shows in New York this summer? I kind of don't. I had an agent hit me up last week about a show that we had on the schedule for last summer, and we moved it to this summer 2021. And he hit me up last week, and he was like, hey, we're going to announce and go on sale February 2nd. And I was like, well, we're on sale. Like, we just moved the date. We never technically canceled the show. He's like, cool, we're going to announce. And I was like, all right, you announce whatever you want, but I'm not announcing anything. Like, I couldn't with good conscience tell people to buy tickets for an event in July right now without any sort of assurance from our elected officials about whether or not that show is going to happen. It seems weird to me for people to be like planning a summer tour right now and asking people to spend money on tickets. Just really weird, right? Especially when like Coachella's canceled, Glastonbury's canceled. Like, what's the point? So I guess I'm gonna. I don't know when anything's gonna go back to any sense of what we're used to it being. But I think I'm gonna be here for a while, and I think I want to meet people, and I think I want to make friends. Dude, I'm so glad I'm not in Woodstock or Kingston right now. I gotta say, I keep reading about like where people are moving to, and I've been thinking about the whole idea of people like leaving a city to then hang out with city folk, like it's some sort of city retirement community, like some city slicker retirement home, is weird to me. Like I like the fact that there's nobody too hip out here where I am, and like that's how I want it. I want there to be a kind of hip coffee shop, but I just want to be, I say that, and then I walk around with pink hair and pink overalls. I'm probably like the lone hipster in town or something. But, I mean, that's just me being me, I guess. I just don't want to hang around with a bunch of other people who are, like, just talking about, like, just trying to transform a small town into a microcosm of a city or something. It's like, just get out of the fucking city, man. Just fucking go live and meet real people. Meet real people who voted for Donald Trump and who are like, fuck the system. In a lot of ways, I'm totally down with Trumpism. Like, in a lot of ways, just in the way of like, let's blow it all the fuck up and let's get some insider in. Unfortunately, we got the wrong one, but we got the one we created, right? Like, people keep tuning in to The Apprentice and all that shit, and the guy's a star, and 82 million people he used to have on Twitter and all that. And, yeah, like, I totally got the vibe of like, let's, drain the swamp. And like, those were the messages he was sending out. All the racist messages were very coded and certainly spoke to the people who were already racist, but it doesn't mean that everybody who likes Donald Trump is a racist. I wonder how many people are actually racist. Probably, way more than we'd be willing to admit. This is hard to say, but I was raised racist. And it took me a long time to get out of that, and I still have it. Like, you don't just shake that. Like, I was raised, around, my parents said they weren't racist. Like, they would make a point of saying they weren't, but they were. And, like, look, I didn't realize it at the time, because you're just in it. But, like, most people from where I grew up were racist. It sounds weird to say out loud and admit now, but it's fucking true. So I imagine most people everywhere are, or even if you're not, like, you probably still have that if you're my age anyway, right? Like growing up in the 70s and 80s, racism was like a thing. I watched Trading Places recently, speaking of, and fucking Dan Aykroyd in blackface, like, at the end of that movie, it was just really weird. I can't believe he hasn't gotten called out for that yet and hasn't been pulled from streaming platforms. But, like, racism was just a generally accepted thing. Like, remember Soul Man, that movie? A guy who fucking paints his face black so he can go to Harvard and, get in on the affirmative action plan. Like, that's the kind of shit we were raised with, and it's hard for it to go away. And, like, I had to make a conscious decision to not do that anymore. I'm not do it anymore. I never really did it on purpose, but just to realize that, like, people are people, and hey, if I can get along with black people, then I can get along with people like Donald Trump. I think that makes sense based on what I've just been saying. But yeah, just like let it go. Like too many differences, too many people separating themselves. I just want to We Are the World kind of bullshit. But yeah, so about women, and like there's like 3 M's. There's really 4 M's, but the 4th is somewhat rare. I realized, like, if you're going to be trying to meet women out in ex-urban areas, as the term is now, or rural areas, I realized there's going to be 3 M's. There's going to be military, marriage, and maternity. And most of the women I'm going to meet that are appropriate in my age range are going to have at least one of the 3, probably 2, and very oftentimes 3. They're going to have been in all 3 of those things, and the 4th is meth. And I'm trying to avoid that, but I got to be honest, part of my motivation for going to that NA meeting was try to meet a couple loose babes, someone who just wants to have fun, and nice to meet someone who doesn't feel like you need to have a few drinks to have fun, which is definitely different. But I got to say, over the years, man, sober sex is the best sex. Like, drunk and drugged sex is the easiest sex and sometimes the wildest, because you're just fuck it, throw caution. Yeah, fucking, hey, fuck it, let's do crazy shit. Let's take that unicorn butt plug, strap it to your hips, and fucking ride the rocket ship to Jake's internal organs. But, like, that's not usually the type of shit I get into with sober sex, but it's just like, you feel everything more, and it's just cooler, right? It's more fun. So, yeah, I want to find some sober chicks to bang. So I don't necessarily want that 4th M. I don't really want to have anything to do. I don't even want someone who used to do meth, really, even though I have, but only a few times, I think. Twice that I can really recall. Once in high school and once in Leeds, England, or right outside of Leeds, Castleford, after getting chased by a rabid dog. But even then, I didn't know I was doing it at the time. I thought I was doing cocaine. And 12 hours later, I was like, I don't think that was cocaine. But I just want to leave the meth alone, meth people. I think that's more in like southeastern Idaho, Pocatello. That's where the meth labs are. I don't think there's many up here, but I don't know. I haven't really asked around, but I don't see too many sketchy looking meth people. Like, you fucking know, like in Graberville, whatever it is, that town I was in when the meth Murder Mountain story started. That was like, you're just like, yo, it's all meth or opiates, which are 2 very different drugs, but they do the same thing to people. They make them fucking paranoid, sketched out, skinny, hollow, Skeletor shelves of themselves. And that's hard to recover from, even when you've recovered. Like, you can still kind of like see that in somebody. And I don't know, man. I find that drug, those two drugs, really like, you're lucky. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you're lucky if you come out of those drug adventures intact in any way, with your soul and your spirit still intact. I've lost a number of friends to crazy addictions like that, and they come back, and you're like, yeah, you're clean and sober now, but like something changed in the chemistry of your brain, and I don't know that we can be friends anymore, or if I want to, or either, right? Both at the same time. I'm so glad I never got into those drugs. Jesus Christ. I would have, you know, had I fallen down one of those rabbit holes, I'd certainly be dead by now. I can't believe I'm not dead by now. In so many ways. Mostly, I can't believe I fucking didn't kill myself last year, because oh God, I was so close for so long. I was just like, literally for a year, I was like, it's gonna happen very soon. I went to REI and bought a rope and taught myself how to make a noose, and I must have put that noose around my neck 50 times just to get the feeling of it right, so that when it came time to actually use it, it wouldn't feel foreign or weird. That's how deep in the fucking wild suicidal ideation and depression I was in. God, I think one of these days I'm gonna like talk just about all that. I'm gonna put a disclaimer and be like, yo, this is gonna be rough to listen to, and I have no problem talking about it to friends, and I've talked about it on the Matt Stocks podcast. If you really want to hear about it, someone hit me up last week, Matt Aronowitz, and said like, oh, I want to hear more about how you ended up in the quote unquote nut house, and I was like, I'll get there, but if you really want to hear it, go to the Life in the Stocks podcast. Great podcast, great dude, great author, Matt Stocks. But I really sort of like came out to him back in June, and we did his podcast, and like, it was like a 2-hour podcast. First 45 minutes or so, he's just asking about like music business, how'd you get into it, wetlands, your record label, all that stuff. And then he was like, all right, tell me about your childhood. What's going on? And I was like, oh, fuck. And I just fucking laid a lot of it out there. And it was sad in some ways, but also very inspirational, I've been told, for people who listen to it. But yeah, eventually I'll just do it in my own words right here on my podcast. But I'm trying not to be too depressing. Though, I don't know, what am I even trying to do? Just trying to get things off my own chest, and hopefully entertain and connect with people and let them know that, like, I think especially the point of this podcast is kind of like, certainly relate cool, fun, funny stories and whatever fucking inner workings of my brain, but also try to let people know that, like, it's not all fun and games. And if you go to my blog, perfect segue, jakerocksoff.com, you'll see the title image, and the title of the blog is I'm almost always having more fun than you. And I kind of came up with that phrase out of my subconscious, but it really revealed itself to me why it's so important. And when I first came up with it, I thought, like, I'm almost always having more fun than you, because I'm not always having fun, but for the most part, pretty much. And other people tend to have fun, so I'm not always having more fun than you. So I thought almost was a very key word. But then I realized, like, the whole real deeper hidden subconscious meaning to that is, like, the almost part means when I'm fucking depressed so frequently. And thankfully, I haven't suffered that much depression in the past 13 months. Yeah, almost 13 months. Yeah, 13 months and a week and a half since I got out of treatment. And really, in treatment, I wasn't that depressed either. So I feel like my depression really took a 180 turn when I ended up in treatment. But I was so fucking frequently depressed that even when I was feeling good, I was having a hard time feeling good, because I was out doing something that was supposed to be the most fun ever, and I'd be like, yeah, this is fun, but it's going to end soon, and then I'm going to go back to being fucking suicidal. I always think of that Fight Club line, Brad Pitt, like, are you suicidal? And he's like, only in the mornings. And, or was that Ocean's 11? I don't remember. I think it was Ocean's 11. Rusty? I don't know. But it was Brad Pitt for sure. And for a long time, I was only suicidal in the mornings until I shook off the hangovers. And then it just got to, like, I was just suicidal all the time. It was just like you run with this fucking low hum of that energy in your head, and it's fucking rough. But anyway, that leads to my blog. If you go to my blog or rocksoft.com, and if you like this hour-long ad-free podcast, we could really use your support. And by we, I mean me and the rest of the people living in my head with me. Unemployment sucks, and when your only real marketable skill involves bringing people together in real life, that makes a pandemic tough to make ends meet on. And I'll be honest, it's been a struggle. And I'll also get into this in another episode, but I had a decent savings, and I fucking blew it all when I was suicidal. When I was really ramping up to my suicide, I literally just drained my bank account. I've spent all my money. I didn't give a fuck, and I gave a lot of it away to people. I was just donating to fucking GoFundMes like the world was about to end, and fucking just sending money to friends randomly who I knew needed it via PayPal, just telling them it was a gift. But really, I was just like, what am I going to do with this money? I don't want there to be any money left when I die. That was my thought. I was like, I'm just going to spend it in whatever way I can. And I thought for a while that I was going to spend it having fun, and I did some of that, but it made me feel better to send it to people who weren't even asking for it too. People who I knew had been through health crises and job crises and stuff. And I've never told any of these people direct. I've never been like, hey, when I sent you that money, I was fucking crazy, and certainly would never ask for it back. But yeah, being broke sucks. I never thought I would be broke. And like, it sucks, but it's not the worst thing in the world either, because I've realized, I've said this 100 times, probably said it on this podcast. I don't care if I've said it. I'll probably say it every week. And it's one thing the pandemic has taught me, and even before the pandemic, because I came out of treatment, I wasn't totally broke, but I was close, and I knew I was like, it's going to be a struggle to get to when shows are happening again, but I knew I was going to be able to do it. Like, but I just kept thinking to myself, like, what I've learned is there's a huge difference between wants and needs, right? I used to whenever I wanted something, I just buy it. I didn't give a fuck. I had plenty of money. I lived by myself, no kids, right? Like, nobody to save for, right? No college fund to sock away for. So I didn't think about money for the longest time. I just thought, like, I just need to make enough so that my bank balance doesn't fall too far low. But when I got out of treatment, I was like, do I need this, or do I want it? And like, yeah, I treat myself to some wants, but it became a thing. Like, a want was like a slice of pizza, for $3.50 or whatever at Joe's Pizza. Slices, and I don't want 99-cent pizza. Sometimes you think sometimes 99-cent pizza is a need. It's almost never a want, right? Like, you're like, I need some sustenance right now, and I only want to spend $1. That's the only thing you're wanting for a 99-cent slice of pizza. But you go get a $3.50 slice of pizza. I started to think about that, and made me feel weird, to be honest. Made me feel weird, because I was like, I never envisioned myself on the brink of poverty, or ever really having to think about money I was spending on really anything. I mean, I was like, yeah, I want a motorcycle. I'm just going to go buy one. It wasn't like, too much thought about how much it was going to cost, or if I was going to take out a loan or make payments. If I wanted something, I'd do it. If I wanted to stay in a certain hotel, I'd do it. Like, I stayed in super nice hotels, and also stay in super divey hotels. And I love them both equally. But, yeah. I don't know, why am I telling you all this? Oh, it's so you'll buy a t-shirt. Right. Anyway, if you're liking this and you have spare extra money, and if you find this podcast to be of some value, feel free to send a donation. Jake at rocksoft.com on PayPal. Venmo, Jake-Sufnerowski. Put in my phone number. I don't know, however you find these things, Mail a $20 bill to P.O. Box 4116, McCall, Idaho, 83638. Or, buy a t-shirt, buy a coloring book. All out of calendars. Happy to report there are no more calendars left. The last one was sold to Mr. Rob Pilata for his son, Devin the Dude, who likes motorcycles. And that poor guy, man, I hope he grows up to ride motorcycles, and you remember that it was your fault for putting that calendar on his wall as a 5-year-old. But if he does, 13 years from now, when he turns 18 or whenever he wants to ride a motorcycle, I'm going to tell you this, Rob Pilata, and I'll do this for any one of you out there or any one of your children at any time. I would be happy to give you motorcycle riding lessons. I would also give you a super hot tip that if you're thinking about riding a motorcycle, go to the Motorcycle Safety Foundation and take their beginner rider course. That has saved me so many hairy situations, and subconsciously. Like, there's so many situations where something almost happened and I managed to avoid catastrophe, cars pulling out in front of me, that kind of shit, animals, that I would go back in my head when it calmed down, and I'd be like, man, it's a good thing I still have that motorcycle safety foundation course that I took in 2003 when I started riding. And I took a couple advanced rider courses since then, and it's the best thing you can do. But Rob, if Devin ends up as a motorcyclist, I will give him some great tips. I got great tips early in my riding career too, from Crazy Rick from Banana Sound. Julio! We went out for a nice ride, and he gave me a bunch of tips. One of the best tips is don't ride in the middle of your lane. Did you know that? Because when cars are going around dropping oil, it spills from the center of the car typically. So the center of a lane where you think is going to be the safest is going to be actually the least safe, because it's most likely to have an oil slick, especially when it starts to rain, because oil is lighter than water. So a little bit of rain falls and the oil comes out of the pavement. The water gets under it. The oil rises to the top, and that's what makes streets so slick in the rain. It's not what you would think is just slick, wet pavement. That's not what makes it wet. It's slippery. It's the oil that gets spilled on there. Very odd. So you want to stay in like closer to the center line or closer to the right-hand white line, which is, seems obvious now that I know it, but certainly when I started riding, I was like, you want to stay right in the center of your lane. That's going to be the safest place. It's not, but happy to give anybody those riding tips. Do it on the phone. I can't do it via Zoom. It's just, it's a stupid idea. I could talk you through riding, but if you want motorcycle riding lessons, you come to me, fly me to you. I am now a certified motorcycle instructor. Anyway, we don't have calendars left. That's what I'm saying. We have coloring books left. I dropped the price to $9.99 because I ordered way too many coloring books. I realized I ordered 600 of them. I gave away 200. Not gave away, but gave to the artists. And that left me with like 400 to sell, and I've sold about 100. And eventually I know I'll sell them all, I guess, on the boat cruise or wherever, but I don't have to deal with them. So could you guys just buy them? It's $9.99 each. It's a coloring book. It's 36 pages. It's fucking dope. I thought people would like coloring books during the pandemic, and it didn't really connect. And I've had that happen a lot of times in my career. I've done really well with a lot of business ventures, and I've also blown a lot of money doing things that I thought people would like a lot more than they did, and then been confused as to why they didn't. And then I'd talk to someone about it, and they'd be like, well, why did you think someone would want that? But obviously more often than not, people are like, yeah, I don't know why that didn't connect either. Maybe they're just being nice to me because they wanted guest list. But yeah, buy a coloring book, buy a T-shirt, buy masks. People stop buying masks. I get it. I bought a few the other day. I bought of my own. I bought ordered the Salvador Dali mustache mask because I'm a painter now. If you haven't noticed, I'm a professional painter. I sold my first painting last week, which is very exciting, and I'm gonna put more up for sale soonish. But I'm waiting till I have another collection ready. But I bought the Salvador Dali mask. I bought the David Lee Roth Eat 'em and Smile cover mask. And I bought the Mouth from a Blow-Up Doll mask, which I had the Dali and the Blow-Up Doll mask. And I don't know if the masks disappear, which I guess is why it's good that you can buy them like 10 for $10 or whatever at Target, because you just let them go. But if you want to buy a pricier one, $20 masks with cool-ass prints on them, I'd appreciate it. Or cool T-shirts. I bought one of our Crazy Eddie T-shirts, which I got to say, I don't hold the intellectual copyright property for. I don't know who does nowadays, but I would guess the IRS, because Crazy Eddie owed so much money to them when he passed away. And I'll give them probably most of the money from those shirts I sell eventually, but I got a Crazy Eddie shirt for myself, and I'm stoked on that. And a little Eddie Van Halen neck gaiter. Being out here in the cold, masks are a little bit of a pain in the ass to put on and take off, right? They're looping them around your ears and everything, especially if you have glasses on or something. But the neck gaiter keeps your whole neck warm in this polar vortex, and then you just pull it up over your face and then pull it down. You don't have to worry about losing the mask or taking it off, putting it in your pocket. So smart. almost all of our designs, pretty much all of them are also available in the neck gaiter style. So check it out. Are the pitches at the end of the podcast getting old? I don't care. I gotta keep making them because we got new listeners, and like I gotta hustle up a buck any fucking way I can. I should also remind you, if you're someone who regularly asks me for guest lists when shows are happening, like don't think that I don't know who's ordered things and who hasn't. And I wouldn't qualify that as a threat because it's not. It's a promise. Like if you fucking want to get into shows for free in 2028 or whenever shows come back, and I'm like, wait a minute. During that pandemic, when you still had your job, but I didn't, and I was trying to fucking hustle people to buy a I Miss Rockin' Out t-shirt with a picture of Malcolm or Angus Young on it, and you didn't buy one, I'm not going to let you can pay $25 to come on this boat show. How about that? But if I remember you bought something, I'm going to look upon that much more favorably when I'm making my list of who gets to come into my shows for free. That's all I'm saying. I say it kind of jokingly, but I fucking mean it. Anyway, till next week, I'm almost going to say bye, but the Super Bowl is coming. I'm very excited for the Super Bowl, but I'm also dreading it. Like this past Sunday felt empty to me because it was the first time I haven't watched football since beginning of the season. So that was 17 weeks of the season, 3 weeks of the playoffs, so 20 weeks. That's 5 months. And football is such a soothing thing to me. I don't even know who plays on most of the teams. I can barely name any players. I can name like the big star quarterbacks. Right? I like Tom Brady. No problem. Admitting that. I'm stoked that he's in Tampa. I'm stoked that he got to the Super Bowl, one of only 4 quarterbacks to get there with a second team. He'll be, could be the second quarterback to win with 2 different teams after Peyton Manning. And I'm just fucking like, it's just a cool storyline. The old Buck legend, greatest of all time. 6 Super Bowl wins, 9 Super Bowl appearances, his 10th appearance, and they're playing in Tampa Bay, Raymond James Stadium. They're playing in Tampa Bay, the first time ever that a Super Bowl team has played on their own field, which is bizarre. There's like 50-something Super Bowls. I can't believe it's never happened before, but it's happening. And I read the Chiefs aren't even getting to Tampa until Saturday, the day before the game, because there's no in-person obligations because of COVID and all that. But I feel like that's a little weird to have them fly the day before the biggest game, like, and not be kind of settled and in their routine and taking some practice snaps on that field and everything. But I'm really looking forward to it. But what am I going to do with my Sundays when football's over? Like, I just love putting football on. I kind of don't pay attention. I read a magazine, draw, write, whatever. But it's just like something about the way they go across the screen, back and forth, and the commentators, it just lulls me, just makes me feel at peace for some reason. I guess, Freud would say it had something to do with watching football on the couch with my dad as a kid, but I don't even have a lot of memories of that. My dad really only wanted to watch Patriots games, and he would drink like 1 or 2 Busch beers. For some reason, I remember him drinking Busch beer. We used to keep Pabst Blue Ribbon in the garage, but he would use that to put in little petri dishes in the garden to attract slugs. Slugs would climb into the petri dish, enticed by the smell of the beer, and would climb in there and drink themselves to death. And they would just sort of like bloat up and die. And it kept the slugs off of his tomato plants or whatever. And he would keep Pabst Blue Ribbon in the garage for that. And that was what led to my lifelong fascination with Pabst Blue Ribbon. For whatever reason, I never liked Busch beer because that's what my dad drank. So I don't know that my football obsession really has much to do with watching football with my dad. Really, I don't even remember watching much football on TV until I moved to New York. And it was just like Sundays were the huge hangover day. That's probably what it was. It was just hangover day. You just sit on the couch, put football on. It was just a constant companion for 20 weeks a year. And I'm going to miss it. And I'm sad that there's no XFL starting the week after the Super Bowl. But I'm going to treat myself to some food. I'm going to make, if you ever watch YouTube videos of cooking shows, I would highly recommend the Munchies Vice channel, specifically the lovely and talented, and I would love to meet her someday in person, Faraday. And I've cooked a bunch of her dishes, but she made this Detroit-style pizza that I've been looking at barbecue chicken Detroit style pizza. So as of now, that's my plan on Sunday, is to cook that for myself. But things could come up. Well, let's see. Maybe I'll get invited to somebody's Super Bowl party up here in McCall, Idaho. I don't know. But I'm stoked to watch the game. I guess stoked to watch the commercials. And am I stoked to watch the Weeknd? My gut on the Weeknd is that I don't like him. I don't like his stupid haircut. I don't like his name. But that's just me being just like what the truth is. I don't understand him. That's what it is. And I one day in an Uber, there was a song playing and it sounded like Prince to me. It was fucking incredible. It was like a heavy, sort of slow power ballad type of thing. And I said to the Uber driver, I was like, "Who's this?" And he's like, "That's the Weeknd." And I was like, "Fuck, I didn't want to like the Weeknd." So like, dude, it's got to be a better halftime show than J-Lo and Shakira, right? Like, I think the Weeknd sings and like makes his own music and produces it and stuff. I did read dude's spending $7 million of his own money to make the halftime show even better. And then I was just like, how the fuck this dude has $7 million? Like, just laying around extra to spend on this. So that made me like him a lot more too. Just dude's like, all right, I'm going to be on the biggest stage in the world, whatever, or at least on television. Like, I'm going to fucking make it count. So, like, I'm rooting for the guy, I guess. I want to see the Weeknd put on a good halftime performance. And I just want to see a good game. And I'm just going to, like, really be excited to watch football one more time until it's gone. Even last weekend when football wasn't happening because it's the week off, I went and watched, like, one of those condensed highlights of an old Patriots Super Bowl victory when they beat the Seattle Seahawks. What craziest ending in Super Bowl history. Man, that guy Pete Carroll never gonna live that one down. I think I'm gonna go watch the Prince halftime show today too. Like there's literally nothing the Weeknd could do to top that one. Nothing anyone could do. Best. I mean, it's got to be the best outdoor live performance of all time, right? There's a good YouTube video of sort of behind the scenes and how it all came together, talking with like the producer of the Super Bowl and some NFL execs. It's fucking fascinating, and yeah, about like they called Prince and said, "Hey, it's raining really hard. Like, you know, what do you want to do?" And Prince is like, "Let's see if we can make it rain harder." Like, how the fuck did that guy perform in a monsoon on high heels on a slippery stage and not get wet? You watch the whole performance. He's getting rained on. His hair never fucking moves. You don't see his makeup running. You don't see water running down his face. Dude fucking danced between the raindrops for fucking 13 minutes of that performance while playing the best guitar in the world, while covering Bob Dylan and the fucking Foo Fighters and all of his own classics, and just ripped the fucking world apart. He like tore a hole in the universe where the rain clouds were to make sure he didn't get touched while he was doing the Super Bowl performance. Anyway, I hope the Weeknd gets close to it. And if you're going to try to get close to it, spending $7 million additionally of your own money on production elements, unless if he's got a Prince hologram, that'd be kind of cool. I tell you, it'd be way cooler than when Justin Timberlake did the whole like fake Prince tribute when the thing was in Minneapolis. I'd be more excited if the Weeknd did it for some reason. Just because Justin Timberlake's great and all that, but I wouldn't confuse him with Prince. And even though I don't know that much about the Weeknd, that one song I heard in that Uber that time, the only other song I ever heard from him was "I Can't Feel My Face with You," and I'm like, that song, I assume it was about cocaine and your face going numb when you snort too much of it. But I think I just heard that song too many times. It's just a goofy song. It didn't really seem to have any soul. But anyways, I'm looking forward to that this weekend. It's been nice chatting with you all. If you like this podcast, please send me a message. I love hearing from people saying they like it. And yeah, that's it. All right. Until next week, until next Tuesday, this has been Tuesdays with Jakey, and I am your host, Jakey Sufnerowski, at Jake Rocksoff on the socials. Peace.